and most of all, exhibited courage in the face of an overpowering invader. It is their unbelievable sacrifice which gives those two short lines ensconced in our national anthem, "Sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil," their most realistic and vivid expression. The irrefutable heroism of the Filipino has been affirmed time and again in our long march through nationhood and development. The Filipino labor diaspora, estimated to consist of at least 10 million nationals, that roughly translate to 10% of the entire Philippine population, is but another iteration of our people's resilience and heroism. The migration of our people has been driven by a selfless force. More than the desire for personal advancement, the overseas migration of our people is moored in their unyielding commitment to serve family above self, and their ardent desire to make real for their loved ones a future much better than what they inherited. It is this commitment that has allowed them to endure conditions far harsher than loneliness for the survival and hopeful betterment of the ones they have left behind. The labor of our people across the seas, onshore and offshore, has had a tremendous impact on the quality of life of their families. Their labor not only finances the education of their children, it also secures for their entire family the precious chance to bolt out of poverty and march toward that promised life of relative comfort and dignity. Their selfless heroism has proved to be a lifesaver, not only for their immediate relatives. More importantly, it has contributed to our national resiliency, especially in times of global economic turbulence and regional crisis. Their dedication, competence, and skilled work have likewise positively impacted upon their host communities, sustained social and health services everywhere, and underwritten the growth in construction, engineering, maritime commerce, and other industries globally. This modern-day heroism proves the depth of the sacrifice that our people willingly embrace to affirm their love for family and nation. For despite every Filipino's incontrovertible preference to be here, in close physical proximity to family and friends, succinctly summed up by our national anthem in its lines, "Buhay ay langit sa piling mo," our people's hope to improve their loved ones' future continuously sparks in them immense courage. It is this courage, this boldness of spirit, invoked by the image of a family living a decent life, that gives our anthem's last lines, "Ang mamatay ng dahil sa iyo," its most intimate meaning. Most recently, the Filipinos' irrefutable heroism has once again shown its light amidst the darkness of the pandemic. While fears of further contagion forced the closure of our borders, Filipino doctors, nurses, medical personnel, and professionals willingly stepped up to the front lines. They treated the sick and infected even when the medical and scientific community's knowledge of the disease was scarce and at great cost to themselves. As of last year, over 100 of our courageous medical frontliners, constituting a veritable heritage of our national medical expertise, have been forever lost in our fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. In turn, countless lives have been saved because of their selfless service and sacrifice. But it was not only in the sacrifice of the health professionals that we gleaned the Filipinos' innate heroism. That same virtue found iteration in the everyday bayanihan of the common tao. It was manifest in the contribution of the ordinary Filipino who, despite having so little, trooped to give back to community pantries so that those who were dislocated by the pandemic's disruptive effect on the economy could nevertheless make ends meet. It was confirmed by the voluntary acceptance of our countrymen of their duty to comply with health and safety protocols to mitigate the risk of further infection in our communities. It was reflected in the readiness of everyone, from non-government organizations, business owners and enterprises, and many other donors, to make available their property and resources just so we could fortify our strategy in combating the infection and mitigating its adverse aftermath. In this pandemic, our bayanihan has proved to be the most recent restatement of the Filipinos' persistent heroism. It is this heroism that we must summon anew as we face yet another daunting challenge in our national life. In a few weeks, our people will have to march once more to polling precincts and choose those who will lead us next. More than a right, suffrage is a duty. It is a duty of immeasurable importance and fraught with an enormous challenge. At no point in the life of this nation has the need to elect a competent and forward-looking government become more crucial than it is now. The pandemic has placed a tremendous strain on our economic capacity, while pressures from within and outside our borders continue to threaten our security and national sovereignty. The difficult task of jump-starting our economy to regain its momentum and of reasserting our independence in a climate of insecurity, among others, will require tremendous foresight and exceptional leadership skills. Unfortunately, the task of choosing our leaders who can meet this gigantic task is made more difficult by the emergence of fake news and the relative ease in which it is shared and distributed in social media and the virtual space. At the same time, the perennial problems of guns, goons, and gold make the manifestation of our people's true and genuine electoral mandate harder and more complicated. But it is precisely in this complex situation that we must trust in our people's discernment and their capacity for heroism to overcome political divisiveness with respectful social engagement and to conquer threats with bravery and determination to make known their electoral choice. Come Election Day, the Filipino will again march to the polls, unafraid and determined. They will do so in the tradition of the soldiers who, 80 years ago, marched in this province, unbowed neither by the threat nor by the certainty of great personal peril. Our Filipino brothers and sisters will march to the polls with as much hope and faith as the millions of Filipino workers who annually join our diaspora overseas with a vision of a better tomorrow as their wellspring of inspiration. Each of us will courageously cast and protect our vote so that it may be properly counted, with the tenacity of those who march to the front lines so that others may be shielded from the threat of the pandemic. Come May, we shall once again manifest our capacity to think beyond the self, to vote wisely and with discernment, and to protect each vote on which the future of this country and people so precariously depends. Come May, we shall once again confirm how the imprint of heroism remains persistent in our national DNA. Naway maging patunay ang araw na iyon ng awit ng ating lahi. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning. Ang bituin at araw niya, kailan pa may di magdidilim. Thank you at mabuhay ang bayang Pilipinas.
Thank you very much, Secretary Menardo I. Guevara of the Department of Justice. Please be seated. We'll now proceed with the presentation of the commemorative stamps to our guest of honor and speaker from the Philippine Postal Corporation Representative, Ms. Zenaida O. Trambulo, and PAGCOR representative, or the Philippine Amusement Gaming Corporation, Ms. Maricel David. Would like to request Secretary Guevara, sir. Well, thank you very much to Secretary Guevara, and of course to the representatives of the Philippine Postal Corporation and PAGCOR. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we wind up today's ceremony, we'd like to thank, of course, all those who gave their support for this commemoration of the 80th Araw ng Kagitingan. We have Governor Albert Garcia of the province of Bataan, Vice Governor Chris Garcia, Board Member Popoy Del Rosario, Mayor Charlie Pizarro and the LGU of Pilar, Mayor Jopet Inton and the LGU of Hermosa, Representative Jopet Garcia of the 2nd District of Bataan, Undersecretary Ramon Qualuping III of the Philippine Information Agency, Emmanuel Javier R. Guido of the Department of Interior and Local Government, Zenaida O. Trambulo of the Philippine Postal Corporation, of course from the PAGCOR, or the Philippine Amusement Gaming Corporation, and we also would like to thank, of course, our members of the Diplomatic Corps from the Embassy of Japan, Embassy of Australia, Embassy of the United States, other diplomatic corps also watching virtually, as well as the foreign armed forces attachés. We also would like to thank, of course, Philippine National Police, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Department of Education, Department of Foreign Affairs, Philippine Veterans Affairs Office, other government agencies, other veterans organizations, as well as, of course, the Philippine Information Agency, Region 3. Well, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we end this commemoration of the 80th Araw ng Kagitingan. Sa inyo pong lahat ang aming taus-pusong pasasalamat at kayo po'y nakikiisa o nakiisa sa paggunita ng Araw ng Kagitingan at siyempre po sa Linggo ng mga Veterano. Muli po nais nating pasalamatan ng ating butihing kalihim Menardo I. Guevara ng Kagawaran ng Hustisya. Palakpakan po natin ang ating guest of honor and speaker. Isa rin pong masigabong palakpakan para sa ating mga veterano. Mabuhay po ang ating mga veterano, mabuhay ang bansang Pilipinas.
Mabuhay ang ating mga veterano, mabuhay ang bansang Pilipinas.